Continue even at this hour. And as we get into them, we're going to be talking money just a little bit this hour. And as we look into that, our guest is already seated in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Rose Muturi is the Managing Director of Branch Microfinance Bank East Africa. We're going to be unpacking that a little bit to then find out the money in your pockets. How will you then be able to walk around with a bank essentially in your pocket? And that's what we're looking at this hour. And just to welcome you, good morning, Rose.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, and welcome to the Situation Room today. And you're going to be telling us how you can walk around with a bank in your pocket. I hazard a guess that very, very many people listening this morning want to know exactly how that's going to happen. So let's do it for them this morning, shall we? Dennis is going to welcome you with a proverb. We'll give you some homework as though you don't have enough work to do. You let us know what you think about it.
Okay. Yeah, our proverb comes from Cabo Verde, also known as Cape Verde, considered to be one of Africa's most democratic countries. We talk about a country that played an important role during the colonial period because it was a transition point between Europe and Africa. And we talk about a country whose population is around 565,000 people, but the economy is pushed by remittances sent by their citizens who are in Europe and continue to push the government and the economy of the country to grow. But we also have a proverb from them. You sow wind, you reap storm. How would you interpret that?
You sow wind, you reap storm. I would look at it as, let's see, I feel like I'm in an English assignment.
Remember, your interpretation can never be wrong.
Okay. Could it be like if it's a lot of wind and it's not doing the right thing, then it will create a storm, possibly. So in whatever you're doing, and you're maybe aggressively doing it and it's not going in the right way, it ends up creating a storm or, an outcome you didn't want.
Yeah, it just reminded me of a situation in Lake Turkana where they're using that much wind to generate power. So one would assume the storm in that instance is the power we get.
Possibly, because it's being used nicely.
Yeah.
It's a good thing about your opinion.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want. And somebody says, well, that's wrong. So excuse me.
Yeah,
it's my opinion.
It's my opinion. You're entitled to yours.
I'm entitled to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we're getting into a conversation today, and for some reason, you want to make us believe that you can have a bank in your pocket.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start with that first before we get into the nitty-gritty of it. How exactly?
So, in fact, let me start with, I normally like asking people the question, when is the last time you visited a banking hall? You see, you're trying to look in the sky to see when is the last time. It's a long time. We don't normally do that, and that's pretty much the agenda that we have today. Because as Branch, we are the first neobank, and for purposes of people to understand what a neobank is, we essentially are a branchless bank. So we purely exist digitally. So we exist on an app as well as online platforms. And that is the A to Z of the bank. So the reason why we have taken this path is because we want to show our customers, because we've been in the country for 10 years now, that we're accessible 24 hours a day. You don't necessarily need to see the physical presence to feel that we exist. And we've been able to prove that concept so far.
For a very long time, if anyone would ask what a branch does, one would say, if you want to get money, easy cash, without many questions, just go to branch and you'll get it for a very long time. But now we're looking at branch having metamorphosized. It has developed to becoming an online, fully fledged microfinance. So why the leap? Why the switch?
Oh, good question, actually. So when we started out, that's in 2015, the goal was to make affordable credit accessible. And that's why we were doing what we were doing on mobile phones. So we would ask customers to download the application, and then we would do the scoring that we do and give them the credit instantly. So over time, we were able to understand what are the needs of our customers. Why are they using the money and in what form? What payments are they doing? And also coming from them, they would constantly ask us, can I save some money with you? Can you enable me to make this payment? So that made it very important for us to look at it from a strategical angle. The customers are asking for more. The most natural progression from just doing one thing, which is providing credit, is to now give them full service banking. And that now led to the conversation of, can we now become a neobank? So in Kenya, the regulations for neobank do not exist as it is. So that's why we were able to get the microfinance banking license.
Okay, so you've moved from a microfinance to a full-fledged bank. And
we are a microfinance bank.
Oh, microfinance. Sorry, you moved from a lending option to now a full-fledged bank.
Yes.
So everything that you would do with the bank, all of that, you can now do. What is it called? Branch bank? What is it? Okay.
We actually just call it branch because the brand in and of itself, and I have to say huge kudos to the marketing team. They've done a good job in just making sure that the brand branch is well known. So we don't even need to add, microfinance bank or anything else at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how does this change for everybody who knew branch as branch? How does this change? And will the thing that you originally started out as, being a loan outfit, does that change now that it's a fully fledged bank?
It does. And in terms of when it comes to doing transactions and how easy and seamless it is, that is constant. It still remains. When it comes to the technology that we have and the trust element, that still remains. The only difference becomes when you are at branch today, you'll be able to not only get the loans that people were very used to, you can now be able to save, you can now be able to make your payments, you can pay for utilities. There's really a lot more you can do, which is very exciting.
Like what?
So for instance, let's say you want to buy an air ticket, we can do it through branch today. And that's because I think originally the myth used to be, especially when we were a digital credit provider, that the type of customers who come to us are the ones looking for very small amounts and, they're, possibly living from borrowing Peter to PayPal. There was a lot of myths around it. However, our data shows different. So we're looking at customers who, on one hand, 70% of them are in business. They're doing trade. They are looking for working capital. They're looking for ways to increase, whatever they're doing in terms of business. And we, on the other hand, are coming in and saying, we can now be able to give you higher amounts, because originally we would give them only up to, say, 300,000. Now we're doing even upwards of 3 million shillings, which comes through instantly. And then we're also talking about, when we give you this money, because it's coming into your, what we call the branch wallet, you can do your payments. If you want to send it to another bank, you can do it instantly. If you want to send it to like a pay bill or a till, you can do it instantly as well. If you're doing your trade, because we do have a part of it called Lipana Branch, we're very excited about those customers who use Lipana Branch. When their money comes in from the customers paying them, they can be able to save. So one of the most exciting things that we learned, especially when we started doing the savings products, was when we were a digital credit provider, we were told these customers cannot save. They do not have any money, any extra cash. But on the other hand, when we exposed the savings products to them, we saw that product growing exponentially to the point where today someone will call and say, we would want to give you some money, we want to save. We're like, yeah, it's great, come. But we're not, out there saying, you must come and save with us. It just pretty much walks in. And I guess it's because of how simple we've made it. We've demystified banking. We've made it super simple for anyone to just understand what is a savings account and how does it work.
For those who've used a branch before, anytime I just go and get my money, then I pay up and I'm good to go. But now here's a situation where now we've changed from an online lending to a microfinance. For those who used to access debt differently, does it change now that you're a microfinance bank?
Well, I would say it changes a bit because the fact that we now disperse the money into our own branch wallet, we're able to understand even better what are your financial habits. Number two, it also means you as a customer, can do more with us. So you don't necessarily have to take the money out and go use it elsewhere. You can be able to do all your banking with us. So what does that mean? If we were giving you, say, a loan limit of, let me say, 100,000 shillings, you can now easily move to much, much higher limits. So we've done some experiments, because the team that handles credit normally works on experiments, where we've seen we can move a customer from what was 100,000 immediately to, say, 300,000, just because now they're banking with us, as opposed to originally where we would use data to score them, not necessarily the deposits or the banking that they were doing with us.
Okay. So, there are folks who may have... How do you transition folks automatically? Do they make the request, or do you say now is an opportunity for you to have an account by virtue of you having maybe borrowed, have had a branch loan before? How would that work?
Now, so let me answer that in two parts. The first part is when we got the license, that was in January 2022, and we said we're going to invite the customers, let me not say back, just to inform them, because they already have the app. And that meant we had to, technically speaking, you call it a forced upgrade, where the app now shows all the other features. And now being regulated by the central bank as a microfinance bank, it means we need more information from the customer. So we would take things like a selfie, probably a copy of the ID. So that's the only part that we had to add. But essentially, so long as you had the branch app from the beginning, it was just as simple as a click of a button to see there are many other things you can do. Click on this button. Fill in what we need. That means give us the copy of the ID, give us your selfie, and you're good to go. And then we made it very easy for someone to move money into branch. That was very strategic for us, because we need them to understand that you can keep money with us. So what was happening at that time, customers would actually call central bank. I love that about Kenyans, because they're very aware of, this is my money and I need it to be safe. And they would call and ask, is branch now allowed to take deposits? Because they're telling me I can save with them. And they were made aware that, yes, you can actually keep your money at branch. And since then, it's actually been pretty, let me say pretty easy. Right now, if you download the app, you'll see everything as a new customer. So you don't have to go through a lot of hoops. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you're in. Yeah, no paperwork.
You know, when you talk about microfinance, there's always a cup building somewhere around the corner where you can walk in traditional banking, you know.
Yeah.
But here we talk about we talk about a facility that is purely online, and that, first of all, one would say is communicates to where the country is at. You know, a large population, young people, always online, and where else to get them? No one's got time of going to banking halls, or you'd say the numbers continue to diminish and go down. But even while at that, so what makes, apart from just that idea that we are online and this is where we are, what makes branch stand out from its competitors?
Now, two things. One, we were there from the beginning when people needed money, when we were doing lending. So that gave the market, so to say, or the customers, the information that branch does exist. And the most amazing thing is when we started, let me call it full service banking, customers, when we would talk to them, because we do a bit of user research, they would say, you trusted us with your money. Now we can trust you with ours. You can keep your money. You can keep our money for us. And so, on the other hand, because we don't have any physical presence, one thing that I've seen that works very well for us is the fact that we are living in a country where we're very highly, in terms of technology, we are way up there. People like to take chances. So you look at, for instance, when mobile money started, people actually just reached out and said, I'm going to use it. When you talk about, let me talk about virtual assets. Yes, the law passed recently, but even before that, people were still sending money using it. When you talk about which other example can I give? Even if it's social media or whatever the case is, people just jump into it and say, let me try and test it. So for us, being a digital brand meant the mobile generation that we serve were actually quite comfortable because for a large extent they don't need to see a physical presence to believe that it works. You use your WhatsApp, you use all the social media tools that you use. You don't even know where they are, but you trust them. You send them all your information, but you still trust that they'll do the right thing. Here, yes, you're talking about finances, but the fact that we had given them money before, grown them through, you're taking a loan today, will educate you on how to grow your credit, will educate you on how to manage your finances. I guess it gave them that element of, we trust the brand. We trust that you're looking out for our best interests. Yeah.
How easy would it be then for folks who get on the platform today, now that it's microfinance, to continue what they were doing before in terms of borrowing?
So getting larger limits, or how do you mean?
At all?
Oh yeah, it's very simple actually. So nothing has changed. We haven't made it complicated in any way. It's the same way that it was. And in fact, even today, most of the people who join a branch as it is still come in to borrow. That's the first element that they look at. And then when they come in, they say, oh, okay, you actually have more things to offer. So we haven't complicated it since. Yeah, we've actually made it even more seamless.
Yep. Let's look at Kenya's borrowing culture. So I would look at you as a branch before, when it was just lending. What did you see as the culture of Kenyans borrowing at that time? And now that you are a microfinance, clearly by the time you're lending money to someone, there's some box that have to be taken, assurances here and there. And what would be your overview on responsible borrowing from the side of Kenyans, both as previously as branch, just a lender, and now as a microfinance? What are the takeaways? How does it look?
Now, I would say the market has dramatically changed since when we began. So you're talking about 10 years, lots of efforts have been made from both the regulatory side, also from just consumer awareness. I remember before 2020, before COVID, we had this issue where people would just pick up a SIM card, because it was very easy to even have 10 lines. You go pick up a new SIM card, go online, download an app and borrow. So the unintended consequence became, now any institution that's offering digital credit is now perceived to be the enemy, because they were perceived to be over-indebting customers and so on. But it was how the market was structured, all the way from how do you access it to how does the information flow. But now, after COVID, because there's a lot of work that was done, you'll find getting a SIM card now, it involves quite a bit of work. You can't just keep adding SIM cards endlessly. That was fundamental for us. Number two, information flowing to the credit bureaus. I know people panic when they hear credit bureaus, but it's actually a good thing, because if your data is there, both because we submit both positive and negative, it means for the positive data, you can get higher loan limits anywhere you go. You'll actually, banks will be chasing after you because they can see your data. So that also helped. Then number three, when it comes to the regulations, they had to ring fence the suppliers of digital credit. So that made it very transparent. You have to disclose the rates that you're offering. You have to disclose, what type of information are you using. Then we also have the data protection law that came in. So this whole element of people, those rogue lenders who would go and text your whole phone book, had to stop.
Yeah.
So if you look at it then versus now, a lot has changed. And for us as branch, we've benefited from those changes. And then what was just now, let's say the cherry on the top, was now being able to take deposits from our customers, giving them payments, has made our life very easy, has made customers more happy. So I guess it's a win-win. Yeah.
So, people in business, we also know that there are folks who borrow in the morning, do business, pay it back at midnight. That's one of the things that folks have been able to do on a lot of these lending apps. What kind of support then is there for businesses now that it is now a microfinance? And, if we want to look at the broader picture of society, that we know that drivers of the economy are MSMEs, or they should be. If we operated in a society that was pushing that particular agenda properly, MSMEs should be the drivers of an economy, supported by government. Now, what happens, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, is that a lot of the banks are giving their money to government. I could get controversial here.
Yeah.
But are lending money to government, whereby it should be
safe.
going, it's safe, quote unquote. But if the environment had been provided, it would also be safe to give money to MSMEs.
Yeah.
What kind of support is there now through branch for MSMEs, who, again, the responsibility is being put on their shoulders to build its economy?
I really love that question, because when we look at our data, we see over 70% of our loans go out to people who are doing business. So when they're borrowing, we normally ask the reason, and the reason will be business purposes. So what we've done is we've looked at, from the information, because we are a tech company, we deal with a lot of data. So we've been able to look at this particular customer who's in business. What sector are they in? And of course, when you look at the sectors, you can be able to drill down on the cycles that the money comes in and the money flows. So part of what we've done, we had the new product that I mentioned, which is Leap on a Branch, which enables our customers to receive payments. We've made it super cheap in terms of them being able to access that service. Now, on the other side, based on the cash flows, we're able to give them much, much higher loan limits. That's part one. Number two, their customers have been with us ever since the beginning, the 2015. So right now, if you look at the amounts that they qualify for, are way higher. All this being said, there's no single time we'll ask them to give us any single documentation, because we know that through the permissions you're allowing us, we can be able to credit score you without making you jump through hoops. One of the most fundamental things we learned when you're dealing with the micro and the medium or small and medium enterprises, time is key. They just need, we call it a yes-no decision. Can I get a loan? Yes or no. The rest, you can deal with it later. So for us, we've been able to couple the two. We'll give you the yes-no decision, and if it's a yes, we'll be able to give you the money shortly after, within a few minutes. So that gives the customer peace of mind, because in that environment, you find the supplier is there outside the shop with the merchandise. They're telling you, we want to give you this, pay for it now. You don't have the luxury to say, can I pay for it tomorrow? Or let me apply for a loan, I need to do this or the other. So we've been able to master that very well. And we continue to iterate and make it even better, where even for the higher amounts, we can still go ahead and give you within a very short time. So what that has done is it's made the SMEs that bank with us to refer more SMEs. I find it phenomenal. And they will create sort of like a WhatsApp group where they say, why are you not with branch? So we've even gone to visit them. You'll find they are possibly in the same area, and they will be our biggest ambassadors, because we came through for them at the point of need. And what they normally tell us is, we just needed the yes or no. If it was no, we'd understand. But if it's a yes, thank you for giving us the answer immediately and the money that we needed. So I think that has really made it very made the brand very trustworthy for the SMEs that we work with.
You know, when you talk about the SMEs that you work for, now that branch is a micro finance institution, there is now the aspect of, I'm giving you up to 3 million, Bob, but as I'm doing that, we need to sit down and see how you will spend this money. We need to sit down and see what you're investing in, and if at all it is viable.
Yeah.
So just in terms of financial education that you give to SMEs or your customers, pretty much, to manage these funds better, because fine, nataka kwanza bees, but kuna sherehe. So how then, you know, kuna sherehe. So then just sitting down to understand that the project that was intended to, whether it is releasing these, the funds in tranches, if it's a project someone is putting up, just what are some of the tools that we are putting in to ensure that this guy or this lady becomes a success story?
You know, when you say kuna sherehe, I'm laughing because normally at branch, you're like, we tell customers you need to borrow with a plan, not for vibes. So there's a way marketing will send the communication, which is actually very cool. And we also say you need to make your money work for you, not disappear with you. Because we've gone through it. You know, when you're doing lending or providing credit and you're scoring millions of customers, you learn a lot. You can be able to predict a lot of patterns. So when you're talking about this customer who's coming in, it's very unlikely that we'll start you off at the 3 million. We have to work with you from a level where this is the amount we safely feel you qualify for. And that's where our technology side comes in. We leverage a lot on machine learning, so all the data that we look at. We've been using AI for the longest time, not just as a fad that's in the world right now. We've been using it for 10 years now. And that has been enabled us to say, on a very light note, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, well, you know how it goes. So we are able to actually predict behavior or predict patterns and say, we can comfortably give this person X amount. Then from there, based on your repayment, now we can grow with you. So what customers need to understand is the first loan is so critical. How you behave on your very first loan tells us a lot. Because the subsequent ones will borrow a lot from how you behaved originally. Of course, there are other factors like age. Maybe when you borrowed the first time you were 23. And now 10 years later, you're 33. So life has changed. But we make sure that we are able to also send you very educational information. So we help you to see, how do I build my credit? What does paying on time mean? Not just necessarily for branch, but generally. Because being in a market like Kenya, customers are multi-banked. You'll hardly find someone saying, I only bank with one bank. And the same information that we have, Bank X will be able to access it through maybe the credit bureau or whatever. So we teach you, by the time you want to borrow 10 million, they will still look at how did you behave with 500,000. So it's very important for you to follow the process. And also we teach them how to save, because that element is also very important. The thing about Kenya, which is exciting, is when you talk about financial inclusion, we are saying that we are at above 80%. I think we talk about 85%. But the bigger challenge today is financial health. So that's where we as branch are playing at to see, can we be able to help our customers get to a comfortable place and have better financial health.
How come women are playing such a big role in, whether they are the customers or pushing certain financial directives? Why is that?
Well, so this is my, let me call it personal opinion. I think when it comes to taking risks or, looking at how can I make finance work either for my business or in the family, women will not take reckless risks. They look at the longer term. I need to stretch out these funds to do the purpose that it was intended. So what we've seen from the female customers that we lend to, truly they are better repairs. It's actually a fact. And more to the point is because if they had said they're borrowing to buy stock, that's practically what they're going to do. On the other hand, you'll find with no bias, I think for the men, they get excited. They're like, oh, there's this new thing that I've just seen. Let me try and diversify, whatever. So we've seen working with the women and just helping them to grow their limits as well has really been helpful. The only thing that we are grappling with is the applications are still quite low, not just necessarily for branch specifically, because for us we have 40% are women who come and apply, whether they're doing it for business or for personal purposes. So there are some initiatives. We have some partners we're working with to see, can we do some experiments so that we can be able to encourage more women to apply. Some fundamental things are, because we are a phone-based bank, when you travel further out of, say, the major cities or major towns, you'll find in the household, maybe the phone has been registered under the man. but it is the woman who's using the phone. So we get those nuances, and hence we have to see how do we enable that business to grow without having any gender biases. We just want to look at how are you performing from a credit perspective. So that's another angle that we normally look at.
I mean, women form a very important and integral part of it all. You say that unfortunately applications are still low. So do we have any special programs meant for women per se?
So programs at the moment, no. So that's what I mentioned. I've just mentioned that we want to pilot a few things because it's intentional. So what we've done is we recently signed up on something called We Finance Code. So this is essentially partnering with other like-minded institutions to empower women entrepreneurs. So there's a few experiments we want to conduct, possibly November, December, to see can we intentionally target the women entrepreneurs and work with them and see what impact does it have. And if it is great enough, we can scale it faster. But I'm excited about that We Finance Code because it's being championed all the way from the Ministry of SMEs and cooperatives to central bank and the rest. So I think it's going to have a good impact.
You know, we have let me call it a constituency of Kenyans who go to bank A, try to get credit, zero. You go to several banks, zero. I got to branch online, as an online lending facility, I got credit. So there is a constituency of individuals who accessing credit has been difficult for one reason or the other. So what are just some of the inclusivity or financial inclusion in branch that would help these individuals access credit?
Right. So number one is, so long as you're over 18, apply, and then we shall vet you and see, do you qualify or not? Now, this will look at your financial behavior, because it's all about the smallest things. Maybe you're in university and you normally get a stipend, maybe you have help, whatever it is, how are you spending it? So we won't start you off with the largest amount, we'll start you off with a small amount, but it helps you to start building your credit. I have to say, by the time banks are saying, let me lend to this customer, they have looked at how are you borrowing and repaying at branch for the most part, because we've had millions of customers that have accessed our platform. So that's the first step where we look at, we will encourage you to apply. Then if you get approved and we lend to you, please pay promptly. Don't get excited and say, well, this is free money. That's what used to happen before 2020. People will be like, this is free money. And right now they're coming back and saying, well, I think I messed up because I'm trying to get loans elsewhere and I'm being told, but you did not pay branch many years ago. So we don't want that to cloud their future access of credit, but we can still be able to give them larger credit if they needed. And I just remember one, a doctor had gone to see recently, had fractured my wrist, and he said that, because I told him I work at branch, and he said, thank you very much for the work you guys are doing, because I remember my campus days when I had no money and no one would believe me because I'm still a student, but you never asked me anything. I just applied and you gave me a loan and I was able to sustain my university life. So until today, he's still with branch. And I found it to be very interesting because you'd be like, well, now that this person is, say, a doctor, they probably look for the biggest bank to bank with.
Right.
But they still trust branch. So we are happy to be the underdogs who are challenging the status quo.
Yeah, I know you talk about financial health and financial responsibility, but if there were things that you wanted people to know and go with in terms of being responsible when it came to lending, what would those be? Or borrowing in this case?
Borrow wisely, pay promptly. It's as simple as that. Because access to credit right now, I think if you compare now versus 20 years ago, we've gone a long way. You can access credit very easily. But that's the easier part. What is more important is how are you going to pay back and when are you going to pay back? Life gets challenging. So we would encourage you, and even speaking as branch, in case you find that you have a challenge, you're not able to pay immediately, reach out. Because when you reach out, we're able to do things like a loan extension. We're able to look at, can we give you a moratorium for a particular time? So like last year when we had the floods, it was this year. Were the floods this year?
They were actually last
year, sorry.
Yeah.
So when we had the floods, actually, a lot of small businesses were affected. And we encouraged people to reach out to us. And what we did is we postponed their loan repayments by 3 to 6 months because it's not something that they expected. So the important part is when you have the loan and you're able to pay promptly. If a life situation happens, reach out. And not specifically to branch, but any bank. Have a conversation with them. They're willing to listen because it means you have the willingness to pay. It's just that the capability at that time is not there. If you now try to be funny where you've been given money, we're trying to reach out to you, you're unavailable, now that speaks to character. And when it comes to credit, character plays a very huge role.
Yeah. You know, it's weird that it's coming from me, but women are said to be good financial managers, whether CEOs.
Why you say said to be? It's our.
I want clarification. That's why I said it is weird coming from me, you know. But then again, so whether it's your spouse, women are seen as good financial managers, even starting from home.
Yeah.
And that men have said it's just another story. Demystify.
Well,
break it down for us to understand why that is the talk in town.
So let me ask you a question. If you are to say send money, or if you know people who normally send money to their folks, not the black tax, just to support, you know, I want to send you something. Do they send to their mom or to their dad? I'm just asking.
Ask the one who said that.
So what have people told you? Whom do they send it to?
Personally, I send to both. I think it's safer like that.
So,
but majority do send to moms.
Yeah. So that speaks to a bit of it. Subconsciously, we know that if you send it to the woman, it will likely be used for the intended purpose. And that speaks to also just largely providing credit and, you know, how are they borrowing and so on. The intended purpose. So they don't take reckless risks that are, like I was saying earlier. If they have to take a risk, they have calculated, because probably if they have a family comes first. They have to make sure everything is okay. If there's a hot deal happening somewhere where you're being promised the biggest returns, they will really think about it before they say, let me put my money. And even if they put it, they won't say, here's 100%, let me take a gamble on it. So even when it comes to how they behave on the credit side, whatever amount of money they've been given, they will use it for the intended purpose. Very calculated risks.
So as someone who's at the back end, sorry for putting you on the spotlight, you're at the back end and you see women streaming in, is that a point to saying, yeah, you know, here we're safe? In terms of character and what is there?
Well, thankfully, the data that we look at, you're not able to, or let me say internally, for us specifically as branch, we don't use the gender. It doesn't count. We look at it post the event to see how did the loan perform. So we don't use it to judge whether we can give you more money or not. Because that will also create another bias. So what we do is just study the after effect and come and show that, yes, they really are. We put them on a level playing field, but they turned out to be better.
So I'm just looking at this trajectory. First of all, being a lending app, and then getting to microfinance. So obviously, are you looking at full-fledged operations moving into the future?
So a few factors we'd have to consider are, of course, if you want to now become like a full commercial bank, there's the capital element. It's not something that we've thought about for the time being, because the capital requirements right now for a commercial bank are quite high. So it would mean quite a bit of heavy lifting to get into that. We are pretty okay being in the microfinance space, largely because of the customers that we are serving, the type of facilities that they're asking for, the speed at which we're able to provide the services to them at. And there's a huge population that's in the micro space. So we want to be the bank that provides them with world-class services at that level. And the pie is huge. So I think for now we'll still be able to be serving the microspace, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk about finance and tech. You know, for a very long time in the country, there's that generation who believe I must walk into a bank. I must fill the forms for me to be sure that my money is there.
My goodness.
There are those who need that card to go to an ATM to
Yeah.
check the balance. You know, they don't trust that a phone will give you that balance.
Right.
You know? So let's just look at tech as a game changer in this space. You've been in this in this game for over a decade now, and one would say through the use of AI that everyone is now jumping on.
Yeah.
You have mastered the class on how to incorporate tech in financial institutions. How is that a game changer in the years to come? Where do you see the country sit, and what do many have to learn from the successes that branch has?
Right. So the consumer is becoming more and more impatient. We have become like an instant generation. Anything you need, you want it instantly, you want it customized, you want it to, understand me and my nuances. Now, the disadvantage we face sometimes is when it comes to non-financial companies and the way they're advancing in technology, it influences a lot what the customers want. So, for instance, if you look at, I'll give a very, let me call it a silly example. The few times WhatsApp is down, you don't even suspect it's WhatsApp. First of all, you'll check, do I have data? Is the Wi-Fi working? And so on, before you come and check, is it WhatsApp? Number two is, right now, if you want to sign on to any new platform, whether it is a streaming platform or whatever the case is, Google has made it easy. They just tell you sign on with your Google credentials. And that's the pressure the customers are giving us. They're like, why do I need to have a password? Why do I need to go through like a one-time PIN and so on? Why can't I just use my Google authentication? Then here you come back and tell them, well, it's because we want to safeguard your money, but it's no longer holding a lot of water. They're thinking, well, with all the technology in the world, why don't you just protect my money without giving me a hard time to access? So from a technology side, we'll still be getting a lot of pressure from customers who will be saying, we want faster, we want seamless, we want it to work. I don't even need to think about it. But we also have the inherent risks, which are like cyber crime, and AI is bringing its own type of risks as well. So we'll need to balance it out. So I think in the future, or let's say even right now, because we're in that future as we speak, we would just need to work collaboratively with the suppliers of the technology and the security for the technology, plus also incorporate what the customers are asking for. Make it less friction, but also super protected for them to keep trusting the platforms. Yeah.
Okay. So taking all of that and then combining that with, that's where we are. This is where we want to go and what's happening in this very moment. Where would you imagine that it would be? Is there a serious attempt to convert just borrowers to have them operate within the microfinance ecosystem? Or is it to say, okay, let folks who've been doing that just continue with what they're doing? You want to merge things and move ahead? Because we talk about going commercial, there's a capital contribution that, of course, must be made. And it could very well be from these folks who are operating in this system today. How do you combine all of that towards this transition?
Right. So we are... I think on one hand, we are having, let me say, a bit of an easier path because we had a lot of customers who had already downloaded our app. So we had their information with us. They had registered. So converting them becomes a quick text message. You can send them and tell them, we are a bank, we're doing all these things, come and do everything. Then we tell them, apart from just giving you savings and payments, we will want to give you foreign currency type of transactions. Continue with that. So the growth with the customers becomes much easier. We don't have to spend a lot on marketing. That's one advantage we have. So even as technology advances, right now we have the virtual assets law that has come out. In case in the future we want to do anything in that regard, it becomes easy because we have our customer base that we can move into that direction with. So that's what I can say.
How do you see a branch changing the microfinance space in the country in the future? We are in that future, but there's always another future.
I think even as it is, we've already challenged the status quo because the microfinance segment serves a very important a sector of this economy, but it's always been looked at as having slower processes, which by and large you'll find there's some very niche microfinance institutions that are very good at it. Because if you're talking about microfinance institutions that deal with farmers, or say cooperatives at a local in a small location, for instance, they've mastered the art of understanding that farmer to that grassroots level. So in that regard, we respect them for that. We're not going to be able to challenge that because there's no day we'll say we're going to visit that farmer. Now, on our part, we're saying the generic type of loan you would need if you just want access to quick capital to sustain you even as you get the larger bespoke type of credit, we will be there for you. So I think on one hand we complement each other, but on the other hand, based on the speed, we're getting more people saying, well, I want to still, bank with branch. I want to still continue applying for loans at branch. So that has been, I guess, an advantage we still continue to carry. Yeah.
What about the folks who did make the mistake? They made a mistake. They messed up, and they said, "Okay, you know what? Fine. I can see that maybe." She said, "We need to have a conversation." That goes to character.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate them in all of this? Who's saying, "Okay, can I knock on the door?
Yeah.
Can I come have a conversation?"
Yes, and we've had quite a number of them. So the conversation we're having with them is a bit different, where we're telling them, "We gave you a chance, and you didn't do exactly as the agreement we had. So now, because you're back, we're happy to welcome you, but you'll have to at least bank with us." There are those ones who'll come just for the loan side. We'll give them the loans and then they'll repay and so on. But now for these ones, we tell them at least start a banking relationship with us, which means do a few transactions with us, keep some money with us. Let's start. It's like a relationship. When you ghosted someone, now you're back. At least
take me out for dinner.
Yeah, just
take me out for dinner.
Be available for some time. So that's what we're looking at.
Of course, been refreshing. Rose Maturi is the MD at Branch Microfinance Bank East Africa. From just a loan app to now a microfinance outfit, and just being able to hear the different ways in which this can all, morph and go into something else. What's the app? It's on the Google Play Store, Apple apps.
We're on Google Play. Just Branch.
Just Branch.
Yeah.
There you go, Rose. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We're turning up the heat on Star Times. Unravel the thrill of